action folds around to Jonathan Duhamel with king 10 of diamonds, raises to 2,100. Jason Mercier, ace queen of spades.
I smell a 3-bet.
And you get it, raises to 6,200. Guy, 9 deuce again.
Yeah, let's see you pull that 9 deuce bluff again in a 3-bet pot against Jason Mercier. That's what I thought.
Home game's not going to like that. Bob Vulgaris with king jack suited.
Ooh, can't blame Bob for wanting to see a flop with this hand.
But he folds.
Wow, tight is right. Still, though, what a nit.
Duhamel calls.
Duhamel's in position with suited Broadway. Pretty tough to lay that down to a 3-bet from a guy like Jason.
So the two young tourney crushers will go heads up to the flop. 8, 10, 4.
Duhamel flops top pair. Going to be tough to get him off this one. Jason's got almost no choice but to continue.
Loading up. And Jason fires 5,800.
I assume Jonathan will want to take one off with top pair. After all, it is the best hand.
Duhamel makes the call.
It's pronounced Mercier, you punk.
To the turn, 4 of hearts pairs the board.
Let's see if Jason wants to continue continuing.
Doesn't, he checks.
Jason's given up the lead. Jonathan is probably okay with that second 4 hitting, as Jason's not likely to be holding one. And with Jason checking, it seems like he could start betting for value now if he wanted to.
He does, bets 5,500.
Jonathan's just made a super weak lead at this pot. Either trying to induce a raise or maybe just trying to make sure he gets called by ace high.
Looks like he's going to get at least called, and he does.
After betting so little, Jonathan has to be happy with that call.
This is one of those crappy spots as Jason Mercier where you're against a capable player and you're like, I have ace high, but oh my God, it's so cheap. Oh, why is it so cheap? I guess I call.
I mean, and in fairness, he can hit an ace or a queen. It's not a good enough price to hit those cards, but at least those cards are good.
Well, I think more important than that is that he could easily be ahead right here.
Yeah, of course.
Duhamel could have Jack-9 suited, 7-9 suited, 6-7 suited, Queen-Jack suited. All those hands make perfect sense as bluffs right now. Of course, he blocks Queen-Jack suited, but only one combo. There's 15 combos remaining of those hands. Versus the value, maybe there's a little bit more value, but Mercier's getting 6-1.
Yeah.
So I understand if you're going to check this turn against a capable player, why you would feel obligated to call.
Yeah, and you may say, like, well, wouldn't Duhamel bet more with those hands? Duhamel's got to be relatively balanced against Mercier specifically here and good players in general. And he can take care of the fold equity later in the hand, right? So even if he bets this amount, gets called, like we saw that happen with Mercier, he can always bomb the river if he misses with his gut shots and straight draws anyway. Like, he doesn't have to do it now, and actually he makes more money this way, right? And still is usually going to fold out a hand like ace queen later on.
If you want to fold out ace queen later on, you should probably do it on Nitrogen Sports, where there's poker, Jonathan.
There sure is. There's also sports betting. There's casino games. They got the whole damn taco, Grant.
They got a whole taco. There's probably a picture of a taco on the screen right now.
Yeah, of course there is.
Use the link that we tweet out when we tweet about Nitrogen to get access to our exclusive monthly tournament. It is always a great overlay. Ask your friends about it. I'm sure they're having a blast on Nitrogen. You should too.
Yeah, get on there. Get you some poker.
The river, 5 of clubs. Mercier checks.
Seems like a pretty safe spot for a value bet, though I'm not sure he'd get action from many worse hands, including the one Jason's got. A small bet might get paid off by ace high, but would also be more susceptible to getting raised. Then again, checking behind is the only way to guarantee you won't get raised.
Duhamel reaching for chips.
He shall not check behind.
There's an orange one in there, and he lays down the Duhammer. Bets 26,200.
Duhamel's gone the big bet route instead. He made a small bet on the turn, and now he's made a biggish one here on the river. I think he's trying to level Jason into making a hero call. He knows Jason's capable. He's dangling the cape and the tights right in front of him. Come on, Jason. The city needs you. You have to rescue Lois Lane from the evil bluffster.
7. Got there.
At this point, though, there aren't a lot of missed draws Jason can put Jonathan on, so he might not be able to make this call. This would have to be just about a total bluff from Jump Street. Maybe Jack 9. I'm pretty sure Jason's superhero power would be that he could hold his breath forever because this kid practically lives in the tank.
Sorry, give me 1 second.
When Jason thinks this long, maybe Duhamel decides he doesn't want to call. Jason taking his time making this decision. After all, it is for the price of Huff's car.
And Jason calls with ace high. And Duhamel's top pair is good. He'll win a pot worth almost $90,000.
All right, going back to the turn, it did feel like Mercier was pretty much obligated to call. It no longer feels that way on the river when Duhamel goes for this big sizing here. What do you think, Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, it feels really wrong to call. Now, I don't know if the numbers are going to back that up. Well, actually, I do know. The numbers are not necessarily going to back up this feeling of like, we should just auto-fold this because this is terrible. We have to have some defense frequency against a player who's going to have a lot of bluffs here. And if he's going to bet his straight draws tiny on the turn like we saw he might, he's going to bomb a lot of the bluffs on the river.
Right. You got to imagine that if Duhamel has all those straight draws that we mentioned on the turn, he's got to follow through because the sizing was so enticing on the turn. And as we see, only one of those straight draws came in. That was 6-7 suited, which was the double gutter. Makes plenty of sense. He could easily have that.
Yeah.
So now we're down to, from Mercier's perspective, 11 combos of those straight draws.
Yeah.
That still makes sense that Duhamel could play like this. That doesn't sound like a lot, and those might be Duhamel's only bluffs, the only ones he has left.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he can have some weird air stuff too. It's hard to really know, but mostly Duhamel's going to be like smarter about this and only bet when he's got equity.
Right, so we have to weigh against those 11 combos what are his value hands.
Yeah.
And as we can see, as the audience, Duhamel has King 10. But as Mercier, we may not be assuming that. We may be assuming, at least I would be in Mercier's seat, ace 10 plus feels like the value range, right?
I agree. I mean, Duhamel is targeting like pocket nines here, right?
Right.
And maybe even some worse tens, but I think pocket nines is like a really clear target. Like betting this much might fold out pocket nines sometimes, so you'd expect better hands to be in there and be targeting a slightly stronger range, but that's not happening.
No, it is not. So if Duhamel just has something like ace 10, 10, 10, 8, 8, 4, 4, 4, 5 suited, hands, Jack, and then maybe let's add in King 10 and Queen 10 suited for S's and G's, Jonathan. Let's go ahead and do that.
Why not?
We did the math on our podcast, and using a little bit of subjective assumptions and removing some combos based on the way he's played it along the way, we think Duhamel has 20 to 24 combos of value here.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So based on those numbers, when he bets 26,000 into 36,000, Mercier is getting the right price. If we have the combos right of 11 bluffs versus 20 to 24 value, he's absolutely getting the right price to call here.
Yeah.
Makes sense to call with ace queen.
Right. It makes sense from a math point of view for sure. And sometimes you just got to close your eyes and do what the math says. There's no question about it.
Right. But
it's
we have
tough
to,
when you're actually putting $26,000 in front of you.
And we have to
though.
question in practice if Duhamel is actually as balanced as we're saying here and actually has all of these hands. It's 2010. Maybe people aren't following through on these bluffs as much.
I mean,
maybe he's checking back the Jack 9 suiteds of the world on the turn more than we think.
Do we really think he's going forward with every single one of his bluffs? He's probably giving up with some of them, right? And if he's giving up with some of them, now there's a problem. Also, he may have less, I mean, this goes the other way, but he may have less value like we were saying before, too. It may be ace 10 plus and not Queen 10 and King 10.
As we can see, he does have King 10, of course.
So there could be less bluffs. There could be more value. There could not be. It's hard to know. And, it just, man, I just wish we could have a better hand than this.
I wish we could be against a worse player is what I wish. Because against a worse player, we could easily fold here, or we could easily call if it was just a worse player who's really spewy. But no, we're against Jonathan Duhamel. And I actually get the call from Jason Mercier, although at first blush, it feels ridiculous.
Now, it does. Now, it's interesting because the solver is not super clear on what it wants to do.
What the solver says?
Yes, exactly. So the solver doesn't really know either. From a balance point of view, it wants to call 31% of the time with this hand, which is sort of like, I don't know, I guess sometimes we call. We like flip a coin 3 times and, if it comes up heads, once we call.
Yeah, so it doesn't by any means think this is a terrible call by Jason Mercier. It thinks it's fine. I think the way Duhamel played it was an interesting way to play for thin value. He it's possible he emotionally committed Mercier on the turn by betting small and making Mercier put that call in and then having him follow through with a bigger call on the river.
It's also possible that when Duhamel turns over his hand, Mercier's a little bit heartbroken that he sees that the value range is as wide as
He looks a little
is.
heartbroken.
It's really bad if that's the case, right? Like you need there to be less value than that probably. What insane river value from Mr. Duhamel, the world champ. We like his play. We think he played it really well on all streets. Mercier's call is really the question. That's the only obvious question, the river call. And the math seems to support it, although it depends on what amount of value and bluffs you're really giving Duhamel. Does he have as many bluffs as we were guessing he does? Does he have as much value as we're guessing he does? Both those things might shrink up. It's hard to know. What do you guys think, though? Do you think ultimately this is a good call or not? It's unorthodox. Most people make this fold, I think, pretty comfortably. But do you think Mercier should be making the call against a guy as tough and going to have enough bluffs, perhaps, as Duhamel? Let us know in the comments.
Also, check out down there in the description where it points to our website, thepokerguys.net. That's where you can get our book. It's called How Can He Fold? It is the best poker book ever written. I think that is a quote from Jonathan Levy.
Yeah, I said that.
Very famous poker guy. It's 37 hands. I always say 27, but it's 37 hands that we break down through text analysis. It's, the best analysis we got.
It's really good. If you like this video, you're going to love that book. If you like our videos in general and our podcasts and stuff like that, this book is exactly for you.
You're going to have fun. You're going to learn. Get the book.
Yeah.